Well, if there's one room that has been a topic of discussion this offseason, it is without a question the cornerback room. Cornerback room has been maligned and praised for different reasons. Lack of depth, of course, being the biggest concern, but seemingly the talent is there. One of the better cornerback rooms in terms of some of the top end talent we got, especially, but just a very versatile room. But just would like to add more bodies. And that gets us into the conversation over the last couple of days. Now, of course, we saw the news Jaden Doss will be potentially moving from wide receiver to cornerback. And I will bring you a video in the coming days where I break down what makes Jaden Doss, have the ability to be a very, very good cornerback. Now, today or yesterday, we heard that Ceyair Wright is going to be visiting. Ceyair Wright, of course, a four-star high school prospect and transfer from USC. Now, with Ceyair Wright, I'm going to get into a little bit of the pros and cons. And it's not going to be a perfect video because I do want to be honest and give you my hesitations as well. But overall, this is no knock on Ceyair. This is just my take on him as a football player coming into the program. Now, with that being said, there's overarching positive message from this. So stay tuned and just listen to the end because there's there's I'm going to go through everything, but there is at the end I'm going to give you my positive outlook on this and my overall outlook. So film will be coming. I'm working on getting film that is not copyrightable because a lot of the film that I was able to find from USC is just broadcasts and stuff like that. So it's hard for me to see the entire field, and I don't want to run into copyright issues. But I did watch the film, so I'll give you a little bit of a breakdown there just briefly. So let's get into it, man. So Ceyair Wright. Ceyair Wright is a guy, 95 rated high school prospect out of California. Now, he's a 90 rated transfer. And one of the, things that he was really good at coming out of high school is just his versatility, but also his ability to play at a high level in many different things, but also perform at a high level in many different areas. He, of course, is an actor, a successful actor, and a childhood model growing up, and an exceptional football player, track star athlete, and played baseball as well. So he has a family lineage of football players. His dad, I believe, his cousin's Darnay Holmes for the Giants. So he has an extensive lineage of athletic members of his family, including in the football ranks and mainly in the football ranks. So some of the pros of him, and then I'll get into a little bit of the background a little more. Like I said, track speed, one state at the 4x4 100 relays, and that speed does translate over onto the field. He has a very long stride, so he's really good recovery ability and ability to make up on the back end. Good acceleration. Played at a lot of different spots in high school in terms of the defensive side of the ball. Even he was played press man. He played off the ball. He played cover 4 quarters safety from time to time. And so, very, very versatile in what he can do. Good ball skills, also play wide receiver. So now, like I said, his physical attributes are exceptional. His ball skills are great. The family lineage is there, but a couple of the things he, could have standed to bulk up out of high school is 180. USC still had him listed at 180. I'll be able to see, here before too long, if he does come onto the team, what his measurables actually are. But on the film, it does lend me to believe that he needs to increase his strength and physicality. So, but again, I'll get into the film. Played 2 games in 2021 and appeared in all 14 games in 2022. Started the 11 regular season games, 28 tackles, 1 interception, and 2 pass breakups. Okay. Now, going into, and I'll get to the film pros in just a second, but going into some of the cons that bring me a little bit of hesitation and pause when it comes to Ceyair Wright, right? Ceyair Wright, of course, visiting this weekend and potentially filling a need in the cornerback room. Now, you love to bring a guy on with this level of talent. Now, the concerns come in terms of his focus and culture, right? I was able to speak with a reporter that I know, Mark Culkin from Locked On USC, to get some insight into Ceyair. And, he told me just kind of the biggest thing is if he could focus on football, he would be a great, exceptional player. Now, when we talk about him focusing on football, this is a kid who is a successful actor, was in Space Jam 3, a bunch of TV shows and stuff like that. Now, one of the things to note though, he was, he was recruited to USC by Dante Williams. Dante Williams, formerly a Nebraska cornerback coach in 2017 as well. But when asked why he wanted, or why he went to USC, he plainly stated in an interview that I saw that he wanted to be closer to Hollywood for the acting. Okay. And so I'm going to circle back to the point about that at the end of this so you can see where I kind of think this might be a thing of the past, hopefully. So going back into him being recruited by Dante Williams, Dante Williams, again, Nebraska's cornerback coach in 2017, produced talent like Desmond Trufant, Marcus Peters, Josh Kalu. And so he's a guy who understands and identified talent. Was one of the top recruiters in the country. He's over at Georgia now, Georgia's DB secondary coach. So, but he was, I believe interim coach before Riley and stuff like that. So he's great at recognizing talent. He's produced a lot of talent. Dante Williams has. So what he saw in the film is great, and what we all see in the film is great. What I see from him at USC in the film is very, very good at times. But again, it lends to believe that maybe focus in the culture might be an issue. So now dating it back to, let's go through kind of his little progress at USC in terms of year by year. Okay. So, he was one of the most improved players coming out of camp for the 2022 season, prior to the 2022 season. Okay. So very, very promising there. Now, he kind of, as the course of the season went along, lost some playing time. And that is what you don't want to see. We've seen some guys who have come onto the program that maybe haven't had the greatest season, but got better as the season went along or played really well against the tougher opponents. Okay. Now with him, there's no telling whether this was to do with conflicts from the staff or what. And that's the one thing here too, is there is a staff transition. The guy who recruited him left. But again, with the acting, right? To be as good of an actor as he's, as successful as he is, that takes a lot of time away from the game of football. And so that seemed to bother even Williams after he recruited him, because dating back to like that article before the 2022 season, Dante Williams was quoted as saying he needs to straighten up and fly right, getting his house in order and showing the new staff he's serious about his football career. And then Williams also said, when there was an absence from him and he wasn't showing up to practice, Lincoln Riley didn't really have much to say on it. Dante Williams, said there's a lot of things going on. For all he knows, he may be in Space Jam 3. Just make some comments. And then, Dante was the interim coach again, like in 2021, DB and passing game coordinator. So it seemed like he felt that with him under his tutelage, maybe that he would be able to have him maybe act right. But it seemed that Dante Williams really didn't have a control of what was going on with this stuff. And that may have been what led to the conflicts with the staff. That leads me to now Matt Rule. Matt Rule is a coach that I think we've learned to trust in terms of his ability to determine character. Okay. Now, when I talked about Ceyair Williams going to USC to be, Ceyair Wright going to USC to be closer to Hollywood. When we discussed that, then we also got to look at the counter that he is potentially moving over to Nebraska. Now, Nebraska, of course, being in the Midwest, it's definitely not Hollywood, right? So maybe there is an indication that his mind might be kind of coming back over to football, or maybe he wants to put more of an emphasis in football now that he's had so much success as an actor, and he has the whole rest of his life to act and stuff like that. But maybe he does want to change this up and put his focus on football, because the sky is the limit with this kid. And again, it's nothing crazy as far as character issues. When we say character issues, he's not a bad kid. He's just a kid who's good at a bunch of different things. And his focus is on those different things. And you can't blame him necessarily for that. But to come on to Nebraska and the way the staff wants this to operate is you need to have the ability to buy in, and you need to be fully focused on what this staff wants you focused on. And if that isn't going to be there, I don't believe Matt Rule will bring him on. So, Matt Rule, if he ultimately does bring him onto the team, I trust that decision because Matt Rule is the one that's going to be having the behind the scenes conversations about it. Matt Rule knows these kids way more than we do in terms of who he thinks is authentic and who he thinks isn't, who he thinks can change and improve and buy in, and who he thinks doesn't. I think that's been evident by the team so far. You know, we had the Wright Gilbert incident, but outside of that, Nebraska's really hasn't had a lot of drama in terms of the football team. And that also, you know, everybody talks about the culture, the familiarity and closeness of the players. They're going to need a cornerback here that is bought in, that is ready to work, and they won't settle for anything less. So trust that if Ceyair Wright is brought onto the team, that those issues have probably been thought about, discussed within the staff, and they feel like they have a good plan in place for Ceyair. Now, again, anything could happen. They could bring him in here and everything could go wrong, of course. But again, that is always a possibility with recruiting or anything. So if Ceyair Wright does come on here, I think we just kind of we see these flaws for what they are. That, you know, he's a kid out of high school, is trying to figure it out. And if you are blessed with acting skills, you know, child model and all this other stuff, and then really good at football, I don't blame him. You know, I don't blame him for having his focus deviated. But I think if he comes on, he can be a great player, especially under this staff. The ceiling there is tremendous. Could stand to be a little bit more physical, could stand to get a little bit stronger. Ball skills, great. Closing speed, great. Keeps the play in front of him, which you need to do in a 3-3-5. Great recovery speed with his long strides. Great play identification. And like I said, the biggest flaw could stand to be a little bit physical and stronger, which I have no doubt this staff will get to and correct, because that is the biggest thing that they've changed about this team is the physicality and the work ethic of this team. So Ceyair Wright, again, love to see what you see on film, and overall would be a good addition to this team if they can get him bought in. And like I said, Matt Rule knows best, so we'll see what comes from this. So thank you, everybody. If you made it to this far in the video, please drop a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think. It really helps me out. So I appreciate everybody who leaves your likes and drops your comments. I will be responding to all of them in the comments. And yeah, I'll have some stuff coming for y'all on Jaden Doss, Jalen Gramstead, and you know, some film coming when I get my hands on it from USC for Ceyair Wright as well. So y'all stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.